Hi everyone, welcome to discuss what's next art and design. I hope you're having an excellent open day, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, the people of the Woiwurrung and Boonwurrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge their ancestors, elders past and present. Okay, so today with me I have some excellent current and past students that are going to tell us all about their experiences at RMIT and in art and design. So let's meet everyone. All right, I'll start with Elizabeth. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Dow and I am a graduate of the Bachelor of Fashion Design course.
Excellent. And Maya?
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm second year and I'm currently studying sculpture for fine arts.
Excellent. And Nat?
Hi everyone, I'm Nat. I recently graduated the Bachelor of Game Design.
And last but not least, Simone.
I'm Simone Tate. I graduated from a Bachelor of Architectural Design and I'm currently studying my Masters of Architecture.
Excellent. All right, so let's start off with some questions. I know we've got a team of people answering all of some questions in the Q&A. So feel free to go ahead and put down your questions in there. They'll do their best to answer any of those, and we will have time for some Q&A at the end as well. All right, so let's start. I might start with you, Nat. Can you tell us, why did you choose RMIT?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually grew up in Tasmania. That's where I did high school. So my journey to RMIT was a bit of a different one to what a lot of students in Victoria would have gone through. I didn't get to attend Open Day, which is a really great opportunity that I'd kind of missed out on. So I did a lot of research on the website. I'd had a couple of friends who had talked about different universities in Victoria that they were looking at. And I was also lucky enough to know a couple of people who were working in tech and in games, who I could ask kind of what they would recommend for unis. And a lot of them spoke about RMIT and kind of the fantastic opportunities for students with RMIT. Yeah.
Perfect. Elizabeth, do you want to tell us about how you came to study at RMIT? Why did you choose us?
So similar to that, my career counsellor at high school and kind of friends within the industry all agreed that RMIT is the best university for fashion within Australia. So I thought any future employer will know about the RMIT fashion course, and this will be key to securing jobs. And I did attend Open Day, and I saw that they offered participation into the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show Design Challenge, which was my dream to do. So that's why.
Excellent. Maya, what about you?
Yeah, it definitely intrigued me that obviously RMIT is ranked #1 for art in Asian Pacific. But it kind of didn't change my perspective, or it made me like finally decide my decision about it. I think it really all just happened for me at RMIT Open Day, which actually did go to, I think 2 years ago, I think. And yeah, just all these beautiful artworks everywhere, and it was just so inspiring. I was like, definitely just wanted to start creating there and use all the equipment. It's just very atmospheric, creative, and a lot going on. Yeah. Excellent.
And Simone, what about you?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, my internet cut out.
No problem. Why did you choose RMIT?
I chose RMIT because I think it's an incredibly innovative university, and I think all of the studios are incredibly research-based. I also know, I didn't actually know this when I started at RMIT, but they have incredible industry connections. A lot of the RMIT tutors are also people in the workplace. So there's a very, very good meshing there as well.
Excellent. All right. So Maya, I might ask you the next, start with you for the next question. What is your favourite part of the course so far? What have you enjoyed the most?
I think that's really hard to answer because I think there's everything really, like from like the technology and the facilities we have and all these different equipment. I'm studying sculpture, so we have 4 different workshops. We have the foundry room, we have the plaster room, the woodworks and metal room. But also I think the lecturers and our peers and colleagues that always kind of like challenge us and kind of give us a different perspective of different things and like our original idea, which is great. Yeah.
Excellent. Nat, what about you?
Yeah, definitely the lecturers and the fact that they're like actual people from industry, like they're professionals in the field. A lot of my lecturers are either working on games or like deep into games research. I was actually taught my first programming course by one of the creators of the Untitled Goose Game, which got a lot of attention recently and was really popular in Melbourne. So we got to like experience some of the early builds of that game and learn from that and really have that expertise, which is so exciting.
Elizabeth, what was your favourite part?
Facilities and space for me. So the spaces are all new, beautifully designed, and the facilities are top notch. Like a few of my friends went to Paris to do a semester and they said like it can't even compare. So we're quite lucky here. And we've got like state-of-the-art specialized equipment, like digital embroidery machines, vacuum formers, lasers, 3D printers, knitting machines, footwear making equipment, 3D knitting, so much. Yeah.
Simone, what are you loving?
The design studios in architecture are so wide range. You can really kind of choose whatever your interests or your passions are in, and you can really facilitate the course to that specific interest. Also, the culture in architecture is wonderful. Everyone's got a kind of a bad reputation, but I'm here to tell you that everyone's very supportive and the tutors are very understanding, and it's a lovely, lovely community.
Excellent. All right, well, I might go to you, Elizabeth, for the next question. Can you tell us about industry experience, any that you've had or any, that you've been a part of?
Yep, sure. So for fashion, you get a chance to take part in the global experience opportunities with RMIT's partner institutes around the world. So this came in the form of like an exchange program or a summer holiday experience. I was given the opportunity to go on a Vietnam tour over the break with my lecturers to visit manufacturers and fabric markets. So the year after was Japan. So lecturers aren't the only people kind of setting assignments for fashion. Industry partners frequently visit and give us briefs to do. So they're not compulsory to do, but in saying that there are often limited spaces, which means it can sometimes be quite competitive to be selected to collaborate. So I think that if they do pop up, you should definitely apply, and that gives you like a real challenge for real companies experience.
Great. Okay. Well, what about you, Simone?
My favourite thing that I've done at RMIT is last year I did a design studio that looked at decommissioned coal mines in the Latrobe Valley in Victoria. I think it was kind of like speculating what to do with them, and I was very interested in that. I'm very interested in how design can kind of address very challenging problems and questions within the world, and RMIT caters very, very well to kind of like these big ideas and these big questions and what to do with them and how to revitalize communities and revitalize areas through design, which I am very interested in.
Simone, what are your thoughts on industry projects?
Well, architecture is very well connected to the industry in a sense that a lot of the tutors from RMIT are also industry professionals. So for my own experience, I know that I got a job through one of my tutors at RMIT, which I've been working at for now almost 3 years. And I've got a lot of friends that have had a very, very similar experience. RMIT is like very, very well connected to the industry in that sense. It's kind of like one big community in that way.
Excellent. Nat, have you had any industry experience as part of your program?
Yeah, definitely. My most exciting one is actually something I did as part of an elective. I was very interested in how to kind of market and advertise games. So I did a creative advertising course, and the lecturer we actually worked with is like quite a popular person in the advertising world. They've done a lot of the Nando's advertising in South Africa, and then they moved to Australia to teach and to work with World Vision. So not only were we learning from his experience, but he was actually bringing in some of the work that he was doing on a television ad for World Vision at the time we were doing our course. And we actually got the opportunity to kind of consult and talk to him a little bit about what his team was working on and give some feedback, which was really cool.
Okay, so I might go to you, Maya, next. What's your favourite piece of work you've produced or worked on while you've been studying?
Ooh, I have to say again, I think everything definitely, because all my artwork so far kind of challenged me in a different way, whether it's like technically or learning new skills, such as I made the bronze, or I went and did some jewelry, so I made rings, necklaces, and even just kind of like, or developing my idea and kind of a new way of thinking about material is definitely like gone so far since I first started.
Elizabeth, what about you? What was your favourite piece of work?
So my favourite piece would refer back to the reason why I wanted to study at RMIT, which was to take part in the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. So we get the opportunity to create a garment out of flora and fauna. So I did that, and then there's 3 placings, and I won $1,000 cash prize. So it was a great experience, a real world experience to kind of go through the entire creative process and then have a ending where you gain real like financial benefits from it. So it was like a really cool experience.
Awesome. All right, so this is always a really big question for our prospective students, and you all went through it. So let's talk about selection tasks and any advice that you would have for current Year 12 students or currently people that are looking to join RMIT and they've got selection tasks that they need to begin and get together. What piece of advice would you start with? Nat, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Oh, definitely. So game dev, like the game design course, has quite, and from what I've seen, one of the broadest portfolios, because game development can cover a lot of different areas in like programming and art. It's left open so that each individual student can kind of show exactly what they're into. And I actually didn't have a lot of art or programming pieces necessarily to show. So I actually submitted a lot of assignments and essays that I'd written about game development for like year 11 and 12, but also just in my spare time. So I guess the best piece of advice I can give is, as long as it fits in the brief, like don't be afraid to kind of include things that you've done that might not be obvious. Those kind of things can really set you apart as long as they're within the brief that you're given, and definitely check those requirements on the website.
Maya, what advice would you give someone that's about to start doing their selection task?
I think definitely not leaving it to the last moment, taking time with it, kind of making sure your vocabulary is good too. Like I know it can be, vocabulary, but it's just the way you express your art and express your emotions, and the way you portray it for your art is very important, I think. And just trying to your best of your ability, always asking for help and others to check through it, because I definitely asked for heaps of help when I had mine. Yeah.
Simone, what would you tell a current Year 12 or someone looking at studying next year?
Yeah, I would say exactly the same as Nat, in the sense that you should throw out kind of all your preconceived ideas of what design is and what architecture is, and not worry about the aesthetics, but really be concerned with creativity and show how you and yourself are a creative thinker and that you can kind of like have big ideas. And also don't be scared, because there's not really a wrong answer when you're doing it. You've just kind of got to show your true colours.
And Elizabeth, what about you?
So for fashion, it's a folio and an interview. So for the folio, be quite selective, choose pieces that you think demonstrate your creativity and ability. You can select both conceptual and finished pieces. Mine was BC art folio, so nothing to do with fashion is fine. And for the interview, I would recommend, if your interests align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, would highly recommend including some points from that. There's 17 key ones and include things like gender equality, climate actions, and so forth. RMIT love to know that you're on trend and you're current. Yeah.
Actually, just another little point I just made. So after when you get to the interviews for your university, I thought this was quite important to mention, because I never realized it. But when you go in with your folio, I recommend taking a big black folio of just your final artworks, because it's a very short interview, And when they look through just your like a folio, a big black folio of your final artworks, they really kind of like get the idea of your artworks and the emotions you can portray and talk about that a little bit. So I think that's really important to bring that along as well.
That's a good point when we're talking about the interviews. So that a lot of the programs do have interviews. So what was the interviews like? How did you know, what were they like? Nat, did you have an interview for yours?
Yeah, and my interview was one that normally isn't super common, but these days might be something that a lot of people are going through. So I was still in Tasmania, so I did a Skype interview with a couple of lecturers, and I was kind of anxious to be like being interviewed by a big mainland uni, but the lecturers are always really supportive. They really want to get to know you very quickly. So anything that you can bring and have prepared, just that speaks to you, so you can kind of give them the biggest picture of yourself and your skills and what you're interested in that kind of short period of time. And they're just really lovely and friendly and excited to hear about you.
Maya, what about you? How was your sorry, you've already told us about yours.
I'll talk about my interview. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very scary when you're coming out of year 12 and you're walking into a university institution that you really don't really know anything about what architecture is or what they do there. You've really just got to be confident and you've got to be yourself, and just come across as friendly, and that's all you can do, really.
Excellent advice. All right, so maybe Elizabeth, I'll start with you. What would be some advice you would give, or the one piece of advice you would give to a year 12 student that is applying next year and transitioning from high school to university?
So I would say really research the course. So RMIT, even though you've got fashion, you've got like 4 different branches you can go down: textiles, entrepreneurial, all that. So really understand what the core program is about and the supplementary courses that you can take alongside it. So I took marketing as a subject as an extra, which they don't really, you have to research about to see which one is best supplements your selection. And also remember that lecturers are humans, you can be friends with them. So talk to them, really research who your lecturers are going to be, look at their practices, see if that's, you know, what you're into. You can ask questions, and it helps you form a more rounded idea of how to get to where they've got to, if that's what you want to do.
Excellent. I might go to Maya. What advice would you give a prospective student?
I wouldn't be afraid when going in on the first. I remember the first few weeks, even months, I was a bit nervous. But this really, I know, and this is because this is last year for me. I'm in my second year now. But I wouldn't worry, because everyone's honestly in the same position. And I think after the first week, I was like making friends, and it was just completely fine. And everyone's in the same boat as you are. And it's very easy to make friends because you're in the same course, you have the same interests, kind of passions. Yeah, definitely, I wouldn't be worried.
Simone, what's your advice?
Yeah, well, I was a bit different. When I was in year 12, I wasn't 100% sure what design avenue I wanted to go down. And if I was talking to a year 12 student that was on the same kind of sphere as what I was, I would say architecture is a very, very good degree, because it kind of gives you the general design thinking. And if you have an architecture degree, there's a lot of different avenues that you can go into from that degree, especially at RMIT, when it has a very, very solid connection to different industries within the university that you can choose to do through an elective. For example, I've got a friend that finished her architecture degree and went on to be a curator for the NGV. So I just think that if you're not sure, architecture is a good path to go down. And I wish I knew that when I was in year 12.
Excellent. And Nat, what's your advice?
Yeah, definitely want to touch on, just, feeling anxious and being kind of scared of going into it. Just familiarize yourself with the support networks that are available. RMIT does have a lot of support for people that are moving into state or who are just kind of a little bit worried about homework or extra study or just, living in general, there's a ton of different options. So if those are things that you might be worried about in the future, even if they're not something you're worried about right now, just having a quick Google and seeing what's available there so you can go straight to those. It's not worth spending those couple of weeks when you should be getting excited and pumped up about your course, stressing about what's to come.
Definitely. All right, so before we move on to questions, I've got one more quick question for you. I want to know what's next for you. So Simone, let's start with you. What's next?
Yeah, well, I need to finish my Masters of Architecture first, but after I finish that, I'm hoping to continue working for a few years. I'm also hoping to eventually travel overseas and take my degree and see what happens when I see what happens overseas, hopefully, one day.
Excellent. Elizabeth, what's next for you?
So I am a graduate. So I did a year at Maya Melbourne as a personal stylist. I'm now currently at an export company as a purchasing logistics specialist. This kind of deals in liaising with overseas customers and managing the product supply chain. So very different from fashion, but the fashion skills set me up for success in this kind of role. I'm also a freelance photographer and shoot runways internationally. I've worked with fashion campaigns being sponsored by Google in Sydney, Sony in Greece, and National Gallery Victoria in Melbourne. So my favourite project so far would be being sent to Fashion Week by Google to promote their Google Pixel phone. So what's next would ideally be more of that.
Very impressive. I'm going to go to you, Maya. What's next?
So definitely finishing off my studies. I'm still doing a bachelor at the moment of fine arts. But I think there's so many different pathways I kind of want to go to. I'm kind of intrigued at scenography, which was set and prop design at like theatres or film, but maybe working as a curator, kind of at galleries as well, kind of exhibiting my works a bit more. I've got one coming up at the end of this year, so looking forward to that. And yeah, I think just trying kind of volunteering a bit and seeing what I like.
Excellent. And finally, Nat, what's next for you?
Yeah, so luckily game design is already very kind of tech and online focused. So there's still a lot going on even at the moment. So I've been applying for jobs and doing a lot of freelance work with local indie studios. But one of the exciting things about everybody kind of moving to a lot of online meetings is there's actually a lot of focus on new online communities and doing remote work with people in other countries. So the global community for games is actually what's really coming together at the moment, and I'm kind of exploring that a lot.
That's awesome. All right, so we've got a couple of questions from people that are watching this now that I will pop in. So, all right, so what are the this one's for you, Maya, what are the studios like?
I love the studios. It's really beautiful. So this is actually something I was going to talk about a little bit today. That when you're picking your main studios, because I know it can be so hard, you've got gold and silversmithing, printing, painting, and you're always kind of like, oh, wonder which one to pick. So I had the same problem. I picked sculpture because that was my main forte. But for example, in my second year, I went and did a jewelry studio. So basically most of my time was picking jewelry. So just because you pick sculpture or painting, you can go and do other things as well. So you can go and do painting, you can do ceramics. But all the studios are, I think it's just so many facilities on offer. You have your own studio space, and then you also have, for like the sculpture, 4 different workshops that you can work from. And you can go there like, I think 7 times a week, and 5 times a week normally the workshops are open. You can go from like, I think 9:30 to 4:30, the workshop's open. So there's a lot of time, yeah.
We've also got a question about the studio classes for architecture. So Simone, can you tell us about those?
Yeah, so I think every semester you get to choose out of maybe 15, 20 different studios, maybe check that. But they're all very individual and catered via like the different tutors and via different interests that you have. And so it's like so lovely that you get to pick such a wide range of, I guess, interests and opportunities within the studios.
Excellent. The next question is for you, Nat. What careers can you get after you do games design? What careers are there?
Oh, this is kind of big. It depends. So the game design course does cover all of the core areas. So games theory, art, and programming are kind of the big three. So if you're comfortable kind of specializing in one of those areas, you're going to have a lot to go on. But there's also a lot of opportunities to go into areas like production, marketing, writing, like music as well. So there's all of those jobs in the games industry. But you'll find that with the game design course and also with some of the other like RMIT courses, you can actually take a lot of those design skills to other jobs. So a lot of my friends who have kind of focused in on art are now doing graphic design part-time alongside working on their own games projects.
Excellent. All right. So the next question is for you, Elizabeth. We want to know how hands-on fashion is when you're studying it. How hands-on is that fashion design program?
It is very hands-on. It's your first year is basically learning all the basics of sewing, so you don't need to have any prior knowledge of make. So they'll teach you everything in the first year. They set you up, and then in second year onwards, they kind of give you some guidance, but it's very free reign. Hands-on, you'll be making everything yourself. Of course, you can outsource in final year, in your fourth year, when you're making a big collection. But everything from first to third year, you'll be making.
Excellent. All right. So I've got one, and this is from a Year 12 student. I'm really nervous about how good I am at design, and how much will I learn design in the program, especially with, I think, there's so many limited subjects sometimes at secondary school before you go in. So let's start with Maya. What do you think about someone who's really nervous?
Oh, I definitely wouldn't be nervous. I remember when we went in, everyone has their own different abilities, but we're all in the same. We all started the same. We all kind of they built us up with small tasks at the beginning, kind of got used to it. And honestly, they're very, very supportive in my studio. Like when we first came, they just started off with small little things just to get us used to it. So I wouldn't be worried. Yeah.
Simone, do you want to?
Yeah, I agree with Maya. Everyone is new, and everyone is coming from Year 12, and everyone is nervous. No one quite knows what's going on. And also, I think that the important thing to know is that there's no right way to do design. Everyone has their own perspectives, and everyone has their own creativity and opinion. And that doesn't mean that your way is the wrong way, because there really isn't a wrong way to design.
Elizabeth, what would you tell the student?
Well, I would say don't be nervous, because you got into the course means you have some kind of design. And then during the course, they'll set you up. They'll do little exercises to show you different ways of design. And that's when you will learn and build on how you look at things design. So, yeah. And
finally, Nat, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely don't think you need to be too worried about knowing everything going in. That's what you're doing the course for, is to learn about all of these things and to get these connections and experiences. So yeah, just believing in your potential, I guess, and focus on all the things that you want to learn and that you could learn, not necessarily what you know right now.
Yeah, willingness to learn is the most important.
Yeah.
Such good advice. You've definitely inspired me, all ready to go. All right, so I would like to thank you all for helping out today, and thank our wonderful speakers. They have been, had some great advice for you all. So don't forget, Open Day is open tomorrow again from 10 to 3, and you'll be able to jump on and speak to everyone and watch all the videos and, find out all about the courses and speak to, students and staff about get all of your questions answered. But thank you so much for coming to see us, and have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good luck.